All right, so get ready because we're diving deep into some seriously cool Icelandic folklore. You guys sent us a ton of info on Sall Whisky's new Jewel Whiskey series, and I gotta say, I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah, this one's pretty special.
It's inspired by those wild Icelandic Yule Lads, right? The Jólasveinar.
Exactly. And what's really interesting about them is how they're not your typical, like jolly Santa Claus
No,
figures.
definitely not. Definitely not.
No, no.
So for folks who haven't encountered these guys before, can you give us a little intro to the Jólasveinar? Who are they?
Yeah, so they're these 13 mischievous, sometimes even kind of scary figures from Icelandic folklore. Each
Wow.
one has their own unique quirks and traditions,
Okay.
and they visit towns one by one in the 13 days leading up to Christmas.
Oh wow! So they're like a whole crew of these like Christmas figures that come visit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so how did we get from like spooky folklore figures to like this delicious single malt whiskey?
Well, the stories, they actually offer a glimpse into, the realities of Icelandic winters and how folklore kind of evolved over time. So Sal Whiskey is blending those old tales with, as you said, some seriously delicious single malt.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. I think we have to start with like the mother of the Yule Lads, like the OG, the legend herself, Grýla.
Hmm.
She's a giantess, right?
Yes, yes, a giantess. And she's known for kidnapping naughty children.
Kidnapping. Oh no! What does she do with them?
Legend has it she uses them to make, a terrifying stew.
Oh no! Okay,
Yeah.
that's enough to make anyone behave, I think. And she have a pet too, right? Something equally terrifying.
Yes. Jólasveinar, the giant Yule cat.
Yeah.
This feline isn't exactly, cuddly.
Definitely not a lack cat.
No, no. This giant cat devours any child who doesn't receive new clothes for Christmas. So talk about high stakes fashion, right?
Wow. Okay, so you have these figures that like really embodied the danger of the winter, especially for those who weren't prepared.
Mhm.
But you mentioned something about the Yule Lads softening over time, right? They weren't always terrifying child snatchers.
Right. Exactly. So as the centuries went on, those darker aspects became less prominent,
Okay.
and the Yule Lads started leaving gifts for good children.
Oh,
Naughty ones might still get a rotten potato, though. Just a little reminder that they haven't completely gone soft.
just a little reminder. Okay, so let's get to like the Yule Lad of the hour. Our first Yule Lad. This is the guy who kicks off the whole whiskey adventure.
Stekkjastaur, the sheepcoat clod.
The sheepcoat clod. What an amazing name.
I know.
I love it already. So what exactly is a sheepcoat clod?
Well, so he's the first Yule Lad to arrive,
Okay.
and his name literally translates to sheepcoat clod.
Yeah.
And it means he hangs out in sheep barns, basically.
Okay. So I'm trying to picture this guy.
Yeah.
What's he like?
Well, he's described as having these stiff wooden legs,
Okay.
which make him kind of clumsy and awkward. Not very graceful at all.
Okay, that's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's Stekkjastaur's deal? What's his thing?
So Stekkjastaur is completely obsessed with sheep's milk. I'm talking like sneaking into barns, trying to steal milk straight from the sheep.
So he's like this clumsy sheep milk thief.
Yes.
This is great. I love it. This is amazing.
Yeah, and you have to remember that, back then, sheep were everything in Iceland, right?
Hmm.
Food, clothing, even warmth.
Sure.
So a Yule Lad obsessed with sheep's milk,
Yeah,
it's not just funny, it's kind of a reflection of how important those animals were for survival.
that's such a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so this brings us to the main event. How does Sal Whisky take this whole sheepcoat clod thing
Right.
and turn it into, well, a drinkable whiskey?
So they created the Stekkjastaur Jewel Whiskey as
Yeah.
a tribute. And they were very intentional about the whiskey making process. It's distilled from 100% Vienna malt.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't like, whiskey experts, break down Vienna malt for us. Like, what does it taste like? What's the deal?
Yeah, so Vienna malt is specially roasted.
Okay.
It's lower yield than other malts.
Okay.
And that gives the whiskey these deep, toasty notes of caramel and nuts. Perfect for, cold winter nights.
Perfect. Okay, so how does that tie back to Stekkjastaur and, his sheep stealing? What's the connection there?
All right, so here's where it gets really interesting. They matured this whiskey in ex Oloroso sherry casks.
Okay, I'm following. But how does sherry get us back to sheep? I'm not seeing it.
So Oloroso sherry has a very distinct nutty flavor.
Okay.
So if you think about Stekkjastaur lurking in that sheep barn, and you can imagine that warmth, that earthy smell of, hay and wool, that's what the Vienna malt brings to the whiskey. And then you get this kind of nutty Oloroso sherry. It's like they took Stekkjastaur's love for sheep's milk and transformed it into these complex, nutty, sophisticated flavors.
That's so cool.
I know.
It's not just capturing Stekkjastaur as a character, but like they've translated his essence
Yes.
into the actual flavor of the whiskey.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And this is just the beginning, right? The Stekkjastaur Jewel whiskey. It's just the first release in this series.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so that means like each year they're going to release a new whiskey inspired by a different Yule Lad.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I know. It's so cool.
It's not just like a cool drink. It's like a collectible series that lets you explore Icelandic folklore year after year.
Exactly.
I love it. I'm already hooked. So, moving on. I know there's 13 Yule Lads.
Yeah.
Are we going to meet all of them?
We might not have time to cover all 13 in detail today, but we can definitely touch on a few more.
Okay.
Just to give you a sense of their unique personalities.
Okay, perfect. I'm ready for more. Who's next on the Yule Lad lineup? Like, where do we go from here?
So let's shift gears from the clumsiness of Stekkjastaur to someone a bit more stealthy. Let's talk about Giljagar or Gullygawk.
Gullygawk. Okay, that name sounds a little less intimidating than Cheapcoat Claude.
Don't let the name fool ya. He's got his own brand of mischief.
Okay.
So Giljagar is known for hiding in gullies and ravines, just waiting to sneak into cowsheds and steal the froth from buckets of freshly milked milk.
Hold on. Another milk thief.
I know.
These Yule Lads really have a theme going on here.
They do seem to have a thing for dairy. And, it makes sense if you think about it. It speaks to the importance of, dairy farming in Icelandic culture.
Totally, yeah.
Even if it's depicted through these kind of mischievous figures.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. So I'm noticing a pattern here.
Yeah.
Each Yule Lad seems to be connected to like some specific aspect of rural life.
Exactly.
With sheep farming, dairy farming.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And their quirks, while often humorous, they kind of reflect the challenges, and even anxieties of people living in such a harsh environment.
Sure.
They had to find a way to laugh at the things that scared them.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm loving these guys. Who's another Yule Lad that, like, stands out to you?
How about Fewslicker or Spoonlicker?
Spoonlicker. What? Okay, this is getting weird, but I'm intrigued. Tell me everything.
Okay, so his name pretty much says it all. He is known for being incredibly thin, having an insatiable appetite for leftover food. He loves scraping the last bits of food from spoons.
Okay, so is he like the original food waste warrior?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
Though his methods were probably more mischievous than eco-conscious.
I can totally picture him lurking in kitchens, just waiting to, like, snatch spoons when no one's looking.
It's a funny image, but, it does highlight this practical concern.
Sure.
Because in a place where resources are often scarce, wasting food was a serious matter.
Totally.
And these stories make it clear that, even the scraps were important.
Okay, I am loving how these Yule Lad stories are both entertaining and insightful.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of folklore, right? It's these cautionary tales or reflections of kind of cultural values, but they're disguised as, fun, memorable stories.
And I'm sure Sall Whisky is going to find like creative ways to capture all of these nuances in their Jewel Whiskey series.
I have no doubt. They've already shown such a commitment to detail and authenticity with that Stekkjastaur release.
All right, let's talk about one more Yule Lad before we kind of wrap things up for this part of our deep dive. Who else should we know about?
Okay, let's go with a slightly more unsettling one, Kettkrokr, or Meat Hook.
Meat Hook.
Okay, that one definitely sounds ominous.
He is.
Okay.
Kettkrokr is known for using a long hook to snatch meat from people's homes.
Oh, wow.
Specifically smoked lamb.
Okay.
Which was, of course, a very valuable food source.
Yeah.
So, he's less of a mischievous prankster and more of a straight-up thief.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
So his story maybe reflects anxieties around, like, preserving food.
Especially during those long, dark winters.
Exactly.
When supplies were limited.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how people back then, like, actually reacted to these Yule Lads. Were they genuinely afraid of them? Or was it more lighthearted than that?
It's hard to say for sure, but, I imagine there was a mix of amusement and apprehension.
Sure.
The stories probably served as a way to keep children in line,
Right.
and maybe even as a way for adults to kind of process, the harsh realities of winter.
It's amazing how these traditions evolve over time.
Yeah.
We've gone from these, like, potentially frightening figures
Right.
to, like, a fun, collectible whiskey series. It's kind of wild.
It is. It really speaks to the power of storytelling and how cultures adapt and reinterpret their folklore, as time goes on.
And I have a feeling Sall Whisky is just getting started
Yeah.
with this exploration of Icelandic Yuletide traditions.
I agree. I'm really excited to see what other Yule Lads they choose to feature in these upcoming releases and how they'll capture their essence, through the art of whiskey making.
This has been, like, an incredible deep dive so far. We've only just scratched the surface, but we've got to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Yeah!
So before we go, let's give them a final thought to chew on.
Yes. Let's leave them with something to think about as they sip their Stekkjastaur Jewel whiskey.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So we've talked about, like, these Yule Lads reflecting, like, rural life in Iceland. And anxieties about the harsh winters. But I'm wondering, did all the Yule Lads represent those kind of serious concerns? Or were some of them just, well, kind of goofy?
Oh, absolutely. Some of them are pure comedic relief. Take Lugagager or Window Peeper, for instance.
Window Peeper. Okay, that one sounds a little creepy. Is he like the peeping Tom Yule Lad?
Not exactly. He's much more mischievous than malicious. Glugagager is known for peering into windows, trying to find something to steal, but not valuables or anything serious. He's mostly interested in finding treats or toys.
He's like the mischievous kid who can't resist, like peeking at the presents before Christmas morning.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. He's definitely more of a playful trickster than a serious threat.
It's amazing how these stories can be so lighthearted.
Yeah.
But still reflecting, cultural values. Like back then, a toy would have been like a rare and precious thing.
Right. Exactly. So even a story about a silly Yule lad peering into windows can remind us of how people valued these simple pleasures, especially during, those long, dark winter months.
Okay, so I've got a sheep milk thief, a milk froth enthusiast, a spoon-licking gourmand, a meat hook-wielding bandit, and now a window-peeping toy enthusiast. What other surprises do these Yule Lads have in store for us?
Well, let's talk about the Yule lad who's a bit of a door slammer. His name is Hua Skiller. Or door slammer.
Door slammer. Okay, yeah. I'm intrigued, but also like a little scared. What exactly does he do?
Just as his name suggests, he loves to slam doors, especially late at night, disrupting people's sleep, causing general chaos.
So this is the Yule Lad, who had been public enemy #1 for parents, like trying to get their kids to sleep.
I bet. But, think about it. In a time when people lived in close quarters, noise could be a real nuisance.
Sure.
So her Skellier's story might be, a lighthearted way of acknowledging that frustration and maybe even poking fun at those who couldn't resist a good door slam.
That's a really interesting take on it. It's funny how, like, these seemingly simple stories can have these kind of deeper layers of meaning. It makes you want to, like, dig even deeper, and find out more.
Absolutely. That's what's so captivating about folklore, right? It's like a window into a different time, a different way of life.
So before we move on to the next Yule Lad, I have to ask, do you think, like, Sall Whisky would actually create a whiskey inspired by the door slammer?
That's a great question. I think they could. It would definitely be a challenge, to capture the essence of a door slamming Yule Lad in a whiskey.
What flavors would a door slammer whiskey even have? I'm struggling to connect doors and whiskey in my mind.
Well, maybe they would use, a type of wood traditionally used for doors in Iceland and incorporate that somehow in the whiskey mating process.
Right.
Or maybe they'd go for a flavor profile that's, bold and jarring, something that really wakes up your palate, just like Skeller wakes up the household with his door slamming.
I like that. Bold and jarring. It would definitely be a memorable dram, that's for sure.
Speaking of memorable, the next Yule Lad on our list is definitely one you won't forget.
Oh, this is getting good. I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Get ready to meet Skargamur, or Skargobler.
Skargobler. Okay, that's a new one. What's Skarv, first of all?
Sky is, it's a traditional Icelandic dairy product, kind of like yogurt, but thicker and richer. It's been, a staple in Iceland for centuries.
Okay. So we're back to the dairy theme with this Yule Lad. What's so special about this Skargobler guy?
Well, as his name implies, he has an absolute obsession with Skyer. He's known for sneaking into pantries and devouring entire bowls of
I
it.
can't help but picture him with his huge mustache, like covered in scar.
And let's be honest, who can blame him? Sky is delicious.
So how do you think Sall Whisky would approach like a Skyr Gobbler themed whiskey? This is a fun challenge, right?
I imagine they'd use a maturation process that, brings out creamy lactic notes in the whiskey, something that would give you that distinct tang of Skyr, and maybe even, a hint of sweetness to capture the richness of this, beloved Icelandic treat.
This is making me want to try Skyr. And also to see what Sall Whisky does with this Yule Lad. Okay, on to the next one. This is like opening like a box of Icelandic folklore chocolates. Who's next?
Well, let's move on from the kitchen to the outdoors. The next Yule Lad we'll meet is Bjubnakraker, or sausage swiper.
Sausage swiper. Okay, so far none of these guys sound particularly intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
They seem more like mischievous pranksters than anything else.
Bjubnakraker might just change your mind. He doesn't just swipe any sausage, he goes after the ones that are being smoked. So he's got to be stealthy and daring, hanging out in rafters, waiting for the perfect moment to snatch those prized sausages.
That's a good point. This Yule Lad is a reminder that even in folklore, food is often a central theme. Like it connects to survival, to tradition, those like everyday concerns that everyone can relate to.
Exactly. It's these seemingly small details that give us these little glimpses into the lives and values of people from a different time.
So how do you think Sall Whisky would translate a sausage-swiping Yule Lad into a whiskey?
Well, this one has to be smoky, right? Maybe they would use peat-smoked barley in the mash bill, or even experiment with, finishing the whiskey in casks that previously held a smoky Islay Scotch. It would have to have a bold, meaty flavor profile to really capture Bjubnakraker and his love for those savory, smoky sausages.
That sounds amazing. I can already taste it. All right, before we get carried away with our whiskey fantasies, who's our next Yule Lad?
Prepare yourself for this one, because he brings the creepy back to the Yule Lads. Meet Gilchagor.
Gilchagor. Wait, didn't we already talk about a Yule Lad named Gilchagor, the one who, steals milk froth?
You're absolutely right. We did talk about Gilchagor, but it turns out there are actually TWO Yule Lads who share that name.
Hold on. 2 Yule Lads with the same name. Is that some kind of Icelandic folklore, inside joke?
It definitely adds another layer of intrigue to these, already fascinating stories, and it shows how these traditions have evolved and been reinterpreted over time, sometimes leading to these kind of delightful little quirks.
Okay, so remind me, what was the deal with the first Gilchagor?
He was the gully doc, remember?
Yeah.
The one who hides in ravines and steals the froth from freshly milked milk.
Right, the milk froth thief. Okay, so what does the other Gilchagor do?
This Gilchagor is a little spookier. He's known for hiding in eaves and doorways, waiting to scare people as they pass by. He's the Yule Lad who goes bump in the night.
Oh, wow. That's a big shift from, stealing milk froth to lurking in the shadows and scaring people.
I know it is. It makes you wonder why there are 2 Yule Lads with the same name but such different personalities.
It's like an Icelandic folklore mystery, and I'm totally here for it. Okay, so I'm dying to know, how do you think Sall Whisky would handle 2 Yule Lads with the same name? Would they make, 2 completely different whiskeys?
That is a fascinating question. I think they could create 2, distinct whiskeys, each reflecting the unique personality of each Gilchagor.
Okay, I'm already, coming up with ideas. The first Gilchagor, the Gullygog, could have a lighter, more, delicate flavor profile. Maybe something with, floral notes and a touch of sweetness, kind of like that stolen milk froth.
I like it.
And then for the second, Gilchagor, the spooky one,
Yeah.
they could go for something, darker and more intense. Yep. Something that makes you jump a little when you taste it. Maybe with notes of spice and smoke. Even a hint of peat. It'd be like experiencing that jolt of surprise. Just encountering Gilchagor lurking in the shadows.
I love how you're thinking. It would be a, really interesting way to showcase the complexity and nuance of Icelandic folklore through whiskey.
And it would add another layer of intrigue to the whole Jewel Whiskey series.
Okay, so we've talked about quite a few Yule Lads now. Are you ready to meet another one?
Bring it on. I'm ready to delve even deeper into this world of Icelandic folklore.
All right, let's talk about Stufur, or Stubby.
Stubby. Okay, that one sounds kind of cute, actually.
Yeah.
What's his deal?
Well, his name pretty much says it all. He's known for being, short and stout, and for his love of, you guessed it, crusts.
Crusts, like bread crusts.
Exactly. Stouffer has a particular fondness for the crispy, crunchy bits of bread that most people, leave behind.
Okay, so we've had a sheep milk thief, a milk froth enthusiast, a spoon-licking gourmand, a sausage swiper, a skyr gobbler, and now a crust enthusiast. I'm starting to sense a theme here.
What kind of theme?
Like, these Yule Lads are all about those overlooked bits and pieces, the things that most people don't really think about. It's like they're reminding us to appreciate the simple things, the often forgotten parts of life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it speaks to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of Icelandic culture.
Yeah.
They had to make the most of everything, even the scraps.
So if Sall Whisky were to create like a stubby-inspired whiskey, what would it taste like?
That's a good question. I think they'd have to use a grain that's known for its rustic, hearty flavor.
Something with a lot of character.
Exactly. Maybe they'd experiment with rye or even barley that's been roasted to bring out those deep, toasty notes, like a perfectly baked bread crust.
That's a brilliant idea. And to tie it back to, like, Stouffer's love of crusts, they could age the whiskey in toasted oak casks.
I can almost taste it now. It would be a whiskey that's both comforting and complex, just like those crusts that Stouffer loves so much.
Okay, this is getting really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm practically drooling over here thinking about all the creative ways Sall Whisky could interpret these Yule Lads through their whiskeys.
Me too. And the great thing is, we're only halfway through the Yule Lads.
Ah.
There are still more to meet, each with their own unique quirks and stories to tell.
So are you ready to meet another Yule Lad?
Absolutely. Bring on the next one.
All right, then, introduce us. Who's next on our Yule Lad lineup?
Next up is Sjólasveinar, or pot scraper.
Pot scraper. So another Yule Lad with a thing for leftovers. I'm starting to think these guys are the original Clean Plate Club.
You're not wrong. Sjólasveinar is obsessed with scraping the last bits of food from pots and pans. He's particularly fond of the, burnt, crusty bits that stick to the bottom.
Okay, so he's like Stouffer's partner in crime. They could have started a Yule Lad cleaning business. Stouffer tackles the crusts and pot scraper handles the pots and pans.
I love it. They could call themselves the Leftover Lads.
That's perfect. Okay, so pot scraping. It's not exactly the most glamorous culinary pursuit. How do you think Sall Whisky would approach, like, a pot scraper-themed whiskey?
This is where things get interesting. They could really lean into that whole burnt, caramelized flavor profile. Maybe they'd use, heavily charred oak casks to age the whiskey, giving it a smoky, almost bitter edge. Or they could experiment with different roasting techniques for the barley, pushing the boundaries of those caramelized, toasty flavors.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
It would be a whiskey for those who appreciate a bit of an edge, who aren't afraid of bold flavors, not your average easy-drinking whiskey.
Exactly. It would be a whiskey that challenges your palate and makes you think about those often overlooked flavors. Just like Sjólasveinar finds delight in those burnt bits at the bottom of the pot.
Okay, so we're getting close to the end of our Yule Lad lineup. Who else is left to meet?
Let's talk about Stekkjastaur or bull liquor.
Bull liquor. All right, this one sounds a little messy. What does bull liquor get up to?
Well, just like spoon liquor. Bull liquor has a thing for leftovers. But instead of spoons, he's all about those bowls. He hides under beds, waiting for people to finish their meals. And then he swoops in to lick the bowls clean.
That's oddly specific.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a deeper meaning to his obsession with bowls.
Maybe it's a reminder not to take things for granted. Back then, a bowl would have been a valuable possession, crafted with care. So bull liquor's story could be a way of highlighting the importance of appreciating even the simplest of objects, even the ones we use every day.
That's a really interesting thought. And how do you think Sall Whisky would translate bull liquor's unique personality into a whiskey?
I imagine they'd go for a whiskey that's smooth and comforting, something that envelops your palate like a warm bowl of soup. Maybe they'd use a type of barley known for its creamy, almost milky texture, and age it in casks that previously held a sweet dessert wine, giving it a delicate sweetness that lingers on the finish.
That sounds absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, who's our final Yule Lad? I'm ready for the grand finale.
The last Yule Lad to arrive on Christmas Eve is Kurtholt, or Candle Stealer.
Candle stealer. Okay, stealing candles. That sounds a little bit desperate even for a Yule Lad.
Well, you have to remember that back then, candles were a precious source of light and warmth during the long winter nights. They weren't just decorations.
So stealing candles was a pretty big deal. What's the story behind Kurtholt's candle obsession?
He's said to follow children carrying candles and then use his long, nimble fingers to snatch them away, leaving them in the dark.
Oh, that's sneaky. I can see why he's the last Yule Lad to arrive. He's saving the most mischievous prank for last.
It's almost like he's reminding people to enjoy the light and warmth while they can, because even in the midst of the holiday season, darkness is never far away.
Wow, that's a surprisingly profound take on a candle-stealing Yule Lad.
And that's the magic of folklore, isn't it? It can take these seemingly simple, even silly stories and weave them into something that resonates with us on a deeper level.
Absolutely. So how do you imagine Sall Whisky would create a candle stealer-inspired whiskey?
This one calls for a whiskey that evokes a sense of warmth and light, right?
For sure, I'm picturing a whiskey that's rich and golden in color, like candlelight.
Exactly. I think they'd use a barley that gives the whiskey a bright honeyed sweetness and then age it in ex-bourbon casks, which would add notes of vanilla and spice, like the flickering aroma of a candle.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So we've met all 13 Yule Lads now. We've explored their quirks, their connections to Icelandic culture and folklore, and even imagined how Sall Whisky could capture their essence in a series of incredible whiskeys.
It's been an incredible journey through the world of Icelandic Yuletide traditions, and I think it's a great reminder that folklore isn't just about stories from the past. It's about how those stories continue to inspire us and connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
I completely agree. And who knows, maybe Sall Whisky will take inspiration from our ideas and create a whole new lineup of Yule Lad whiskeys.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I can't wait to see what they come up with next.
Me too. And in the meantime, I'm definitely adding Skyer to my shopping list.
Excellent choice.
Well, listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of Icelandic Yule Lads and the Sall Whisky Jewel of Whiskey series. We hope you enjoyed the journey.
And as you sip your next dram of whiskey, we leave you with this thought. What other folklore traditions could be reimagined through the art of whiskey making? What stories would you like to see come to life in a bottle?
Cheers to that. Until next time, happy exploring.